get started. Just real quickly though, my name is Adam Neese. I'm with the Comic-Con programming staff. Over 20 years ago, the gentleman here on this panel formed Milestone Media here at Comic-Con, or announced the formation of Milestone Media here at Comic-Con, and we're happy to have them back celebrating their 20th anniversary. On behalf of Comic-Con International, I'd like to present Inkpot Awards to Dennis Cohen, Michael Davis, and Derek Dingle. In acknowledgement of their contributions to the world of comic arts and the comics industry.
To the bar with me tonight. Yo, baby. We had no idea this was going to happen. Hey, look, it's filled with cocaine.
I'm going to put this right here.
I'll put mine right here. You don't get one.
Dennis, I told you I could have drawn the comic books. So.
Wow.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Milestone 20th Anniversary panel. What a great way to begin with the founders of Milestone getting the Inkpot Award. That's a big deal. I want one of those. I don't deserve it because I was not a Milestone founder, but that is a goal for me to reach. That is pretty extraordinary. And the point of this panel is to celebrate the history of something extraordinary that these gentlemen put together. We're going to take our time. We're going to go through the history of the business that they created, the characters they created, and how it happened. Because what they did was extraordinary, and what it did changed a lot of people's lives, a lot of people who were in this room. And there's a lot of great people here who worked with Milestone. We want to try to hear from everybody. So well, let's get this thing going. Let's start showing pictures. We got cool slides. Yeah, mash the button, gentlemen. Thank you, sir. There we go.
Different light.
Yeah, that'd be much better. Just, yeah, thank you. Hi, I'm Reggie Hutland. I do a lot of jobs. I make movies and TV shows and comic books. But I'm here today as a fan of Milestone Comics. Milestone, one of the great, when I made my first movie, House Party, one of the great things that happened as a result of it was that I was able to meet people I wanted to meet, right? Because you go, hey, I'm not gonna make that movie, hi. And you would normally, I would be a little shy to do that. So when I saw the Milestone books, I reached out to them right away because I couldn't wait to meet them because somehow they had got inside my head and had put the things I wanted to do, in a comic book every month. And that was super exciting to me. And I met them and I was like, boy, can I join the band? Then I thought, well, maybe I shouldn't because I just started this movie thing. I maybe try to figure that out before I try to start a new job.
That's a lot of hair. That was the look back then.
So first, I want to. Now on this panel, we have three of the founders of Milestone: Derek Dingle, Michael Davis, and Dennis Cowan. We also have the extraordinarily multi-talented Phil Lamar. Who will literally play a crucial role in Milestone later, and and he's not.
Today I'm just the hype man.
Yeah, Milestone! Yeah! And who doesn't need a hype man? Who literally played a crucial role in Milestone later, but is also a deeply knowledgeable comic book fan, and his point of view is always welcome. I want to start by asking you guys, what were you doing before Milestone started? And individually, Derek, what were you doing before?
Before I start, I'd just like to say I'd also like to accept this Inkpot Award on behalf of Dwayne McDuffie. Before Milestone, I was working for Money Magazine, and before that, I was working for Black Enterprise Magazine. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting at Money Magazine one day, and I got a phone call, and it was from Dennis Cowan. And Dennis, I have known Dennis since
Second grade?
second grade. We sat next to each other from second through fifth grade.
And who copied off of whose paper?
Of course, Dennis copied off of mine.
Actually, Derek taught me how to. Derek actually taught me how to draw comic books.
Yeah.
He was the first comic book artist. I was just watching him draw. Totally true.
And
Him and his
actually,
brother.
Dennis and I used to create comic books as kids. And every issue was a first edition because we didn't have access to Xerox.
So they were all originals.
But when we sat next to each other, we said, one day, we're going to create a comic book company. We said, we're going to do this.
Okay.
So,
Right after I learned how to draw.
So going back to, I'm at Money Magazine, I get this call, and Dennis said, remember that conversation we had? We're going to start a comic book company. And I told Dennis, I have a job.
Now, Dennis, what were you doing at that time?
And he said, how did you get this number anyway? I was, right before Milestone, I had been in comics already for almost 10 years. And
Wait, so how old were you when you started working professionally in comics?
I was 14 years old.
What?
When I started working in comics, I was working for Neil Adams at Continuity.
Okay, Neil Adams, for those who may not know, is one of the legends, one of the pillars of our industry.
Yeah.
I mean, he is a peer of Jack Kirby and Steranko. He is a titan. So at 14, how did you get a job with one of the greatest artists to grace our business? How did that happen?
I was very fortunate. I'll make it really brief. I went to a school called the High School of Art and Design in Manhattan. And one of my friends, and I always wanted to draw comics. I'm drawing comic books. I'm a freshman or whatever. Go to lunchroom. One of the guys I knew had a job as an assistant to Rich Buckler. And he said, yo, you want to meet Rich Buckler? I'm like, guy do Deathlock, guy do this, guy do that. He's like, yeah. He said, you want to come? I'm like, yeah. So I went and met Rich Buckler. I'm 14 years old. Rich hired me as his assistant first to basically run errands and clean the office and do clippings of magazines and stuff like that. And from there, while I was still in high school, I got a job at Continuity working for Neil Adams, and I was about 14 and a half, 15. And it was a high school program that I eventually morphed. I never went back to school. I really I was telling Reggie about this. I was raised by comic book artists, which is really scary. So my formative years were spent at Continuity and working with Neil and working with Ralph Reese and the Larry Hamas and Wally Wood and all these people would come through, Gray Morrow. all these people literally watched me grow up and would tell me how to do things and tell me how not to do things, and mostly ignore me, but it was, so that's really how I started.
So you were a 10-year veteran,
Yes,
and you're ready
at
to
the point.
stretch out and do your own thing.
Yes.
So was there a specific incident or anything that made you say, it's now time for your own company?
There was, it was cultural forces, really. Because at the time we founded Milestone, we started germinating the idea in '89 or whatever, and we kind of brought it to fruition in '91. Finally, but this is the years of the Malcolm X movie, Do the Right Thing, right? She's Gotta Have It, Robert Townsend, and Matty Rich. I mean, Straight Outta Brooklyn. It was all going on, and the one place it was going on all through music, movies, books, everywhere but comic books. And comic books was the one thing that I did. So I'm like, I think there was an opportunity here and some voices that need to be heard. Wow. So let's put together a black comic book company. That was my big idea. So it was really cultural forces and the things that were going on in the world.
So you see how this black nationalism expresses itself in the pop culture context, and you're like, I'm going to do the same thing in my
in comics.
medium of choice. And who are the people you call?
Here's literally what happened. I'm working on Death Block, and the writer was a gentleman named Dwayne McDuffie. And that's how Dwayne and I met. He was one of the writers on Death Block was him. He was splitting writing duties with another writer, Greg Wright. I was the artist assigned after Jackson Geis had done it. And Dwayne and I just hit it off. And the first story arc we did that resonated with me was a story arc called Souls of Cyberfolk. And that was based on the W.E.B. Du Bois book, Souls of Black Folk. And from there, we were just like, that, when it came to how we thought about comics and how we thought about storytelling and the types of stories we wanted to tell. So in a way, that Death Block book was the genesis of really what we wanted to do together. When I came up with Milestone, the first person I actually called, that was the genesis, the first person I called was Michael Davis.
Yeah, Michael Davis. And what were you doing at that time? And did you have to wash your hands before you answered the phone?
Are you still getting over the
I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. This is really messing me up, man. That's all I wanted to do, man, was be in comics and being a guest at Comic-Con and stuff. And this is really messing me up. And I'm not.
What, the ink pot?
I'm not that guy. I don't cry unless there's a girl involved. But you have no idea what this means to me. If I see any of this shit on Facebook, I got Jewish lawyers.
You are so done.
They go to my street.
This is gonna be so much fun.
All that shit.
Chopping up the video, little sections of the video, 2 seconds of just him crying.
My bad boy image is done.
Done.
Done. I was an illustrator. I was actually at the time before Milestone, I was an illustrator, and I was literally working as a professional illustrator, and to give you an example of just how well I was doing as an illustrator, I've worked corporate jobs. I mean, I've been president CEO of Motown Animation and Film Works, and I had a deal. I mean, I've had Hollywood money. The best year I've ever had making money was making money as an illustrator. Except that you gotta work as an illustrator. When you just make shit up, you don't have to do that. So yeah, I was an illustrator, and this guy, we actually went to the same high school together. We lived in the same neighborhood. Literally, we lived in the same neighborhood.
Took the same buses to
We took
school.
the same bus to the subway to get to the specialized school, specialized as in talented, not in short bus. And I knew of him when we were in high school, but he was a dick. Right? But he was also part of the karate class, so I didn't mess with him. Right? But I was an illustrator, and I'm done talking for a second. But that's what I was doing. I'm sorry, Rick.
So you're working as a professional illustrator, making good money, and your friend says, please come take this new venture. There is no cash flow, and you're going to make a lot less money in success.
Right, and we might fail.
We were here. We were at
Comic-Con.
We were at Comic-Con. We were literally walking across the floor. Was this the Mr. Lincoln Day?
It's not the Mr. Lincoln
Not the
Day.
Mr. Lincoln Day. And he stopped and he said, you know, we should put together a black African-American comic book company. And I literally said, that's the stupidest idea I ever heard. And he said, no. And then I knew he was serious. And the entire rest of the con, now you gotta remember, this is what, 89?
This is 89 and 90.
When I was 5. That's all we could talk about. Now remember, we're at Comic-Con. And clearly you know how I feel about Comic-Con and this stuff, so that's all we can talk about for the rest of the day.
Right, so okay. So who else did you call?
So at that con, I called Michael. We took a walk around on the boardwalk with the Seaport Village. We walked back and forth, and I pitched him my idea, and he told me I was crazy. I said, okay, let's call Dwayne. And Dwayne was at the Comic-Con that year. And we called Dwayne, and we met with him in the lobby of the Marriott, or wherever it was. And I remember talking to him about it and pitching it to him hard, like, you know, this is gonna be great, it's gonna be a comic company. And he really looked at Michael and I and said, you guys are crazy. What are you guys trying to do? We're like, we're gonna do this comic company, and we just want you in because you're the best, and blah, blah, blah. We're gonna invite this person, that person. He says, I remember him going, all right. You crazy enough to do this, aren't you? I'm like, yeah, we crazy enough to do this. He's like, all right, I'm in. And he was in, you know, and it was great. That's how Dwayne hooked up. I mean, he just shook his head at us like, I can't believe Michael and Dennis are assaulting me with this idea. And
you know, he's a really big guy, so we didn't want to really piss him off, right? If you don't want to do it, Mr. Goofy, we don't have to do it. So, yeah.
Right. So okay. So there's the Four Musketeers. Any other phone calls?
right, Jim Owsley.
Jim Owsley,
Yeah, Christopher
AKA
Priest now.
Christopher Priest.
He was one of the people we called, and so it was really originally the 5 of us, and we just sat down and started.
And Jim at the time was an editor at Marvel Comics.
Spider-Man.
Was he
Yes.
editor at Marvel or DC?
No, he was DC.
He was at DC or Marvel.
No, he had left. Yeah,
He had
right.
just
right.
left Marvel.
He had just left
Right,
Marvel.
well, the point is, he was one of the few black editors ever in the history of comics
He
in
was
the
the
mainstream.
first black editor.
The first, and I think there may be 1 or 2 since him. So a rare and unique position. And so the 5 of you get together, and then what's the creative process?
We had to figure out what kind of characters, what we wanted to do, what we wanted the company to look like. And I keep saying and I hate that.
You black man, get over it.
Right. So originally we came up with 4, we decided we wanted to do 4 books because we wanted 1 book for every week of the month. So, you know, like we just have 4. And we wanted the 4 books to be iconic kind of characters.
We met in your studio.
We met in my studio, 23rd Street. We met in my apartment a lot in Chelsea.
And did you guys have a name for the company yet?
Negro Comics.
Actually, one of Michael's critics' contributions, when we first came up with the company, we called it Creative Partners.
We were so creative.
Creative Partners.
That was the name that was going to
And
stick
Michael
with you.
said, you cannot have a company that has the initial CP.
We're like, why not? Who says you guys can't call the company?
You know, I'd do that now.
And then we thought about what this comic book company represented. And actually it was how Dennis enlisted me, because I was resistant
You had a real job, man, a real good job.
And Dennis came to the Time Life building, rode his bike there, and sat in front of the Time Life building, and he said, Dirk, you know, it's time to put up or shut up. You know that people have died so that we could do this. People have marched so that we could create comic books and represent African Americans and people of color and all cultures as they should be. And that's when he sold me on Milestone. And that's when we went about the process of not only creating the characters, but also the business.
And who designed this cool ass logo? Who has one of those jackets?
Yeah, that was Jim Owsley.
Jim Owsley.
Christopher Priest, Jim Owsley.
Really?
Yeah, he
But
designed
since
it.
he's not here, I designed Steve.
So when did he go peak best? When did?
You know what's funny? Jim, I don't know if I can get under your skin, and you know, and you think I'm a dick now. I was a real dick then, real big black one. But Jim just thought I was he did not like me because Jim is very, very serious. He did not like me. So we're in a meeting, and I'm sitting there minding my business, thinking I was right in the world, and Jim flipped. He says, I cannot work with this man, right? And I'm like, I said, and I swear to God, this is a conversation, right? It's not like I don't have backup. I said, Jim, you know, regardless of your issues with me, man, this is bigger than you and me. And he started listing all the things that were wrong with me, right? And I said, Jim, I have one talent which I'm really, really good at. Because of the way my life has been, I'm really good at seeing a moment at the time that moment is happening, knowing that that's an important moment. Like I know that this week is going to be one of the greatest in my life. I just got that. I just know when things are important. So I looked at Jim. I said, Jim, one of us is going to be Pete Best, and it's not going to be me, right? And he decided to stay with DC, right? But
It was really a make or break time because what we were doing, we were right on the verge of officially being Milestone Media, signing all the papers, making, you know, we had made deals. It was really real. And it was time to either decide whether you were going to really be in or out. And if you're out, that's okay because people got families and people got bills they got to pay and there's a lot of considerations. And I know that was part of it with him. It wasn't just Michael, you know. It was also
that's what he said.
he had an opportunity to be an editor at DC.
So
And he decided he could help us that way also.
And and why did you guys choose DC, not Marvel, not Dark Horse, not Comico, or whatever other companies were out at that time?
Comico. We should have went with Comico.
Yeah, right?
Comico. We should have
Whatever.
went
Hey,
Reggie Hellman. That's
Pacific.
I never read them. Anyway, Eclipse. I mean, so why DC as your partner?
They had chicken.
Actually, it went to the fact that it went to our structure. We said that we wanted to create a comic book company that we could package the comics, you know, have ownership and total creative control of the characters. And quite frankly, when we developed the business plan, Dennis went up to DC Comics and he showed it to Paul Levitz. And Paul Levitz, you know, was looking at this proposal, and as he was talking, and Dennis described it, he kept looking at this great universe of characters that we created. And part of the reason we sought DC is that also I had a relationship through money with Time Warner. And we saw that Warner Brothers could also be an avenue to license the characters as well. So there was a number of reasons. One was relationship. One was because of the size of Time Warner and the Warner Brothers machine, and we thought that was the best place to house our property.
There was interest from other companies. You know, there was, you know, once we kind of
Had a meeting with
announced,
Marvel.
you know, Marvel
We
and
almost at Marvel.
Eclipse and other people wanted to do stuff. You know, we had our deal with our partners at DC Comics, and we kind of stuck with that.
I've had issues with Paul Levis over the years, but let me tell you something about Paul. Paul was 100% behind us. I mean, Paul and Jeanette Klein, they sat in the room and they were 100%.
They were our champions. They were our champions.
Right? Now you gotta understand at the time, you know, those are the two most powerful people in comics. Because DC at that time, I mean, this is what all that stuff that was going on in comics, they could do no wrong, right? And they were excited about this. So, and you know, I mean, I've had issues with Paul. I mean, over the, you know, well, he found the tape, so clearly he knew it was me. But he was our biggest supporter.
Right. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit because we're going to start questions in a minute. But first, I want to talk a little bit about the Static Shock animated series,
Horrible.
which Dwayne wrote on. Dennis produced and directed, and Phil provided the key voice of Mr. Virgil Hawkins. Talk about that experience, Phil. I mean, like, were you aware of the books before you got the call? Like, or were you, what the heck is this thing?
Yeah, no, I mean, I was a comic book reader from way back, and as a black comic book reader, you couldn't not be aware of Milestone. And it was, I mean, this was a few years after. And I went through the audition process for Static just like any normal show, and was really excited to get it. But I mean, at the time, I knew it was significant in a TV sense. I mean, it was the first African-American teenage superhero, you know, in TV animation. And one of the few African-American superheroes on TV, period. But it wasn't until we started working on it, and I met Dennis, and later met Dwayne, that, you know, it was like, oh, this is good, you know? I mean, it was so unlike, you know, because the superhero stuff that I'd grown up on, you know, Spider-Man and his amazing friends, you know, it was all like bright color, it was really simple, really flat, you know, and run-of-the-mill action. But from the start, Static had some of that Milestone in it, you know, which I don't know how the hell you guys did it, because it's not easy to do anything good in television, especially children, what they consider children's programming, because that's, you know, a lot of people don't remember, Static was Saturday morning. You know, nowadays, you know, there's a strong tradition of adult-oriented animation, especially in the superhero vein. It wasn't back then. You know, how you guys were able to carve out something, a show with heart, a show about you know, starring a black lead that wasn't about him being black. You know, every episode wasn't a very special episode. You know, it was just a black character who's living his life. You know, and we had some amazing, I mean, the episode about the, you know, kid bringing the gun to school won a Humanitas Award. You know, I mean, it was a great thing to be associated with, just in and of itself, and to be offshoot of Milestone, especially added something, you know, a historical element to it.
Who here watched the Static Shock cartoon? Just show of hands. There you go. And now you're here.
If you don't, you can leave now.
And Dennis, I remember talking with you about the ratings on Static Shock, which were extraordinary.
Yeah.
Because at the time, it was all about Nickelodeon. They were such a dominant ratings force that they almost didn't count.
It was Nickelodeon. They didn't even count Nickelodeon. Nickelodeon ratings weren't its own thing. Really, like a whole separate category of excellence and ratings, craziness, and then there was everybody else. But we were on top of everybody else.
We beat Pokemon a couple of years.
Pokemon.
That's right.
My name is Static, and I put a shock to your system.
A lot of the success of Static.
Horrible Static.
A lot of the success of Static was due to the executive producer, Alan Burnett, and I think Alan's here. And Alan, yeah, there he is. Alan was the one was the one who pitched Static Shock to Warner Brothers, and I know what the pitch was. It was literally one sentence. It was Chris Rock at 14 with superpowers.
That's an
That's exactly that was the pitch. And he says, that's what I pitched him. You think it could work? Let's meet with him. I'm like, oh my God. So yeah, it's true. So then we met with the Warner Brothers executives and they approved the series. But it was Alan who originally thought it would be the bomb idea to do this character on TV, put it together, did that initial one.
How much for electrical powers?
Great. And
Can we please start lining up for questions if you have them? We want to make sure we hear from you all. And also, I would love to give a shout. There are many extraordinary Milestone alumni in the house. And first of all, this fine shirt from Mr. Jason. Yeah.
Jason Scott Jones.
Matt Wayne.
Matt Wayne, one of our editors.
Editor.
He's so light.
Mr. Joe James, one of our artists.
Jason Scott Jones.
Yeah, we
I
did.
just said him.
And Dwayne's widow, Miss Charlotte McDuffie. Yes, sir.
Hello. I'm interested to hear what you three what kind of where you guys went after Milestone ended, and what was it like when it was announced that Static would be made into a cartoon show?
What was the second question?
Want to know what we did after
Like-
Milestone? I'm still homeless.
And then what?
Like what was your reaction to the announcement that Static would be made into an animated series?
What was my reaction to it?
He pitched the show, dude.
I got a new job. I was very happy.
Oh, you mean when it was approved? All right.
Oh no, it was singing and dancing in the Cowan household for sure.
So we black.
It was awesome. No, it was
What year was that?
That's what we do. We happy people.
That was
98?
98, 99,
Somewhere around there.
like around then.
It aired in 2000.
2000.
Yeah, 2000.
So 4 years to 2004, 2000.
After Milestone,
rock
stopped publishing, we started looking at different ways to keep Milestone going. And we went into children's book, and I wrote a children's book on Jackie Robinson. It was around 1997, the 50th anniversary of Jackie Robinson breaking the color line, and we thought we were going to create Milestone children's books. And that book went on to win an award. And then I wrote some other books, and Dwayne and I still continued to develop the company as best we could until we stopped publishing. And the day I learned about it, Dwayne gave me a call, and he said, "You're not going to believe this." He said, "Milestone is finally going to be on air," because the history of Static Shock is the history of Milestone, because for years we went back and forth to Hollywood trying to sell
Trying to
the
pitch.
Milestone characters as an animated series.
Remember this? Could Static be white?
Yeah.
True story.
Yep.
We think of electricity as lighter
Yep.
in some way. Wouldn't it make sense for the character to be lighter?
There were discussions of live action, and just as we thought we'd have a deal, it was pulled. And then that's how we got to meet Alan Burnett, who really became our champion.
Was our champion.
But it was, and then Dwayne left New York, and he went to Hollywood, and it was his and Dennis's genius, and I don't want to exclude them, that made Static what it was. And what was amazing is once it was on air, then my colleagues at Black Enterprise told me, "Don't you own that character?" I said, "Yeah." And all those years that I was at Black Enterprise, I became the man because of Static Shock, not because of what I did in.
Okay, CM Tally here, and since the Milestone imprint is inactive right now, are you interested in maybe moving away from DC, or is that something not feasible, or what?
Man doesn't mean it's inactive, man. No, Brad Pitt. You know, Brad Pitt is not making a movie right this second. It doesn't mean he's not gonna make another movie, man. I hope he makes another movie. I love you some Brad Pitt.
We had to talk about Brad Pitt. That's funny.
Hi. What is your design inspiration process? Do you do research or do you just start drawing? What's
you
that
talking
process like?
To me?
Yeah, or all of you, whoever.
Whoever.
I want to hear from all of you, so whatever. Whoever.
I just rip off people that I like. No one will notice Norman Rockwell.
In design, in helping to design, I designed a lot of the initial Milestone universe stuff. We did it over a period of about 3 months. I locked myself in a room because we had to get it done for the pitch and everything else, and just kept drawing. And that was at a time I'm 30 years old then, so I could do things like that. Just stay in a room and draw all day and all night and all day and all night till it was all done. But my original inspiration was mostly looking at Jack Kirby's New Gods comics.
Wow, yeah.
To tell you the truth. It was really all about Jack Kirby's designs and his concepts and everything else, which is why Hardware looked the way he looked with the thing, and people had helmets with ear things and hair poking out. I'm like, I'm drawing New Gods. This is my chance to draw like Light Ray and Orion and all that stuff. I'm just going to do our version of it. So that was mostly the inspiration behind the designs of the characters.
I write for Bleeding Cool, and when I decided to cover this panel like 2 months ago, I'd never read Milestone before, so I downloaded, it's out of print, right? Because I downloaded the comics. I'm sorry. If it's in print, I'll give you money.
It's okay.
All right. So I've spent the last 2 months.
Oh, let me get it straight. You're ripping off the black man again.
Sorry.
And you say that at a Milestone. That takes some balls, man. Yeah, and pay for your stuff, man. But I'm gonna thank you publicly for it. You get away with that.
And so I've been reading Milestone comics for the first time over the last 2 months, and if anybody here hasn't read them, I am blown away by what I've been reading, and still, I read comics every week, and I don't see the stuff that was being tackled in 1993 being tackled in comics today. And I just think it's so important that people keep talking, keep reading. I wanted to thank you for putting out these comics. It's important.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hi, how's it going? First of all, I want to thank all of you because, I started reading the Milestone back when it came out. I was just hitting high school. So Milestone Comics was when I first found out about this panel, I was really excited about it. One quick question in terms of, one of my favorites was basically Icon. He's comparable to Superman, basically, right? How did you guys, when you created him as a character, think about comparatively, power-wise, and everything else, toe-to-toe, so to speak, in terms of creating him?
So basically you want to know, can Icon be Superman in a fight?
Well, no,
Oh, duh!
no, but like,
Quick, name the last black, white heavyweight champion. I need to drop the mic on that.
But like, what kind of care did you go into thinking about that?
There is not a day that goes by that I don't think about Dwayne McDuffie. This is one of those times that I wish he was here, because he'd be able to break down like what the thought process was behind Icon, much more articulately than I can. What I can say is, when we designed the character, his powers, we wanted to make his physical ability very close to what Superman's was when he first appeared. That kind of power, and then you can always expand on that. But we started that as a base. Like, it was a real debate whether he was going to leap great distances or fly. It was his, like, how strong he was. Okay, how strong was Superman when he first appeared? Because that was a good gauge. And in our universe, superheroes were new. So anything he did was going to be spectacular. We knew that. It was just finding a power comparison and something we can base it on. So that's the way we thought about his powers.
Thank you.
Hopefully I help answer your question a little bit.
Next up, Jeff Johns. That's very
watch
funny.
it.
That's a good one. Jeff Thorne, if you guys aren't following Genre 19, his extraordinary independent line of books, please do so.
It's more of a statement. It's like half question, half statement. The Bleeding Cool guy alluded to this, but you guys did the first out gay couple in comics years before anyone else got near it. You had, before it became a trend, Donner and Blitzen were excellent characters, and they were not, hey, we're gay! You know, it was like, okay, they're gay, you know. Same with Fade, the first male and also non-white gay character that was in the leadership position on a team ever. Now you started with 5 and then 4 black men starting a company, and your impetus, the impetus for beginning it was all this sort of what was going on in the culture at the time, but you clearly had to make a conscious choice to make comics for everybody. And I remember having arguments with people who kept saying it was a FUBU operation. That's for us, by us, for young kids. But
That's what that means.
it turned out to be really comic books for the world. Like, everyone was in those books, and I wonder how much attention, or was there any friction within the group? Are we going to be black? You know, are we going to be everybody? And I'd like to hear some comment about that. And the second thing is, I wonder if you guys really understand the massive influence that this period of time had on the current group of comic book creators. There are so many women and people of color and gay creators who, if you ask them what caused you to want to do this, they will immediately, without hesitation, go, Milestone. And even though it was this compressed period of time, it's this weird, like, I don't know, like Krypton blew up and we all got off. Right? So if you don't know that, you should, because there's an army of us out here.
Wow.
Okay?
So cool. Thank you so much.
The interesting part about what you said, and I'm talking to your back, but that's all right, man, because you made an elegant statement. The interesting, I want to ask you a question, but you're hugging and kissing. Okay. I was just going to speak to you, dude.
Okay.
The fight at Milestone started with DC about how black we were going to be.
Okay.
Right? DC actually wanted to use curses, profanity in the books. And they were fighting, and you know, forgive me for the kids being here, but this is an actual conversation. They were like, you know, it speaks to truth and it speaks to real, as if, you know, I had a PhD. I went to Ivy League school. I don't say bad words. Oh yeah, I do. But no, but here's the thing. That's what they took away from what black stuff is. My whole thing was, I want to sell these books in the Bible Belt.
Right.
I don't want someone in North Carolina in the Bible Belt not to pick up a book because they got the F word in it.
Right.
So I'm having this conversation with this guy named Bruce Bristow. Yeah, how you like me now, Bruce? Wherever you are. Bitch. So we're sitting there, we're having this conversation and about marketing and whatnot. He said, no, it speaks truth. We should say words like shit and damn and that F word. I said, yeah, Bruce? How about sucking my dick? How would that be in the book? Because I was actually asking him, you know, but he was like, no, that would be appropriate. Because that's what they was thinking. You know, I was like, no, we gotta sell these books in the Bible Belt. We can't do that. And this is not all black people who speak like this. Clarence Thomas doesn't speak like that.
Right.
It was.
As far as you know.
The way we started out, which was as a black company with black characters, the 4 original black characters.
Right.
What ended up happening was, if you start that way, then you got to take that idea all the way. You know, if you're inclusive, then you're really inclusive. If you're just doing black comic books, you're not being inclusive. You can start out that way, but you're being exclusive, right? The person who really started pushing that more and more was Dwayne McDuffie.
Yeah.
It was Dwayne. Because he
saw African Americans first. He didn't want to create a line of monolithic African Americans.
Right.
And that's why we had different African Americans from different types of backgrounds, education, what have you. And he wanted to make sure that Milestone was in a multicultural world.
There was a lot
not a black
but there was a lot of in the comics press at that time there was a lot of, I'm getting out of here. Yeah. I'm sorry. There was a lot of enmity towards your concept where they would describe it falsely in the comic press at the time.
Sure.
And you guys were constantly on the defensive. No, it's not that, it's this.
It was an easy label to put on us because it made a easier story to write.
That's just lazy thinking and writing, but your efforts for diversity led to my favorite Milestone fan when you guys got the call from the Supreme Court.
Oh, he got the call.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still mad at that.
I got a call from Clarence Thomas. And actually, I thought Dennis and Dwayne were playing the joke on me in the office.
We wouldn't even think of a joke like that. That's not funny.
Okay. I'm gonna go through. I go through this quickly, but I called the number back, and thinking it was a joke, and it was Chambers of Justice Thomas, and Clarence Thomas said, "I read Icon and found it refreshing." And Icon was a Republican, and because he was from the party of Lincoln. And what was interesting is when I finally went to his chambers in the Supreme Court, he had copies of Icon with Post-its by all of Icon's statements. And I saw a speech on C-SPAN, and I swore he ripped off
Yeah, so that means Clarence Thomas was quoting Dwayne McDuffie, which is great. That's great.
This is the very last question.
Mine is actually a statement. I'll be really quick. It's a little bit off the subject, but it still deals with black superheroes. Phil Lamar, since I'll never see you again, thank you for Jon Stewart. Great character. And it really bothers me that the DC staff hasn't put you in any animated movies. I'm a little tired of Nathan Fillion always playing Green Lantern. So nothing against him, but
I guess they figure only Dwayne can write him.
Yes, you may speak.
Super quick, you mentioned the future of Milestone, said Phil's very involved. Where can we find out more?
I'm sorry, you asked?
You mentioned the future of Milestone, said Phil's very involved. Where can we find out more?
Future Milestone, see you here next year.
Copy that.
Real quick, last thing. A collective thank you to all of you guys for creating Milestone. In this room and in the industry, there are dozens and hundreds of really talented guys that got a shot from Milestone. Thank you.